broadcasting from across the North American continent of the Terran Empire, bringing you our unpopular Star Trek opinions since 2020. This is Code 47.
Returning again to your earlobes, this is the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. We've been in a quandary. We've missed 2 episodes. We had tech issues in the first one. We had some further extending tech issues on the second one. And Rich and I are returning to host with you with no further tech issues to be found, certainly. So anyway, Rich, how the heck are you today?
I'm doing great. There's soaking up this COVID quarantine.
Woo! My goodness, yeah. So, real briefly, Rich, what's your COVID story?
My wife was tested positive for COVID Monday of last week, and her symptoms started on Friday the week before. So when she tested positive, the doctors told her 10 days. I tested negative that same day that she tested positive. And then we've been basically quarantining for the last, week or so. And we live in a 3-level house. We have a basement, a main floor, and an upstairs. The upstairs area has, our bedroom, bathroom, that sort of thing. And like a little, kind of family room thing. So she's been living up there for the last week. And I've been living basically in the basement and cooking meals on the main floor for her, putting them on the stairs, she's in she's the monster in the attic thing,
So, do you work the pulleys?
Yeah, no, I wish. A dumbwaiter would be great. I would
would
love to have a dumbwaiter right now, but it doesn't work. So
yeah, right.
We just don't have. There's no way to get it from the top floor to the bottom floor. So
still had to do it manually, and I'm sure you put on your hazmat suit, your away team suit, and get on out there and do that. So, oh man, well, yeah. and it sounds like things are starting to wind down. The quarantine's going to end, so that you guys can kind of go back to normal. So that's tough, and
it is,
and especially since you guys were both vaccinated and everything was up to date, but just proved that in this day and time, it's still so very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, not even that. We're vaccinated, but we also take massive amounts of precautions. We're still sanitizing. We're still wearing masks everywhere that we go, even though we're vaccinated. We believe in being part of the solution, not part of the problem, right?
Right,
so
exactly.
It's one of those things where, if I were to have contracted it, and even if I didn't get sick, I wouldn't want to put that on somebody else, least of all my kids, but anybody else even,
exactly.
Even strangers that I don't know,
Right. Yeah. But you don't really want someone else to get sick and potentially die. So,
right.
It seems pretty basic, but I digress.
Yeah. I don't want that on my conscience.
No doubt about it. So we're going to do a little change up this week. We're going to jump and talk about the news first. We're going to dip into the next segment of Lower Decks next. And then we have a great segment in Infinite Diversity talking about an all-time classic from Deep Space Nine. So first and foremost, I'll grab this first story since, Rich, I know that you are not quite the aficionado of Star Trek Enterprise because the episodes that you've watched have been kind of because of our recommendations. I think we've done a few here and there. And
yeah, I've watched the first season. And
you watched the first season? Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah. That was back when we were doing the big chunks of the seasons.
The big chunks, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I watched the first season of Enterprise during that period. Now, of course, I need to get back to it, which I suppose I should have done in the quarantine. But I was busy with Spider-Man at that point. So
I understand. Yeah, you mentioned to me that you were catching up on Spider-Man, and I actually read a couple recently myself because I used to subscribe, and then I transitioned back to Marvel Unlimited, and so now I'm trying to catch up. And I think I'm about to start the latest arc is the Chameleon Conspiracy or something. I was about ready to jump into that.
That one's boring, but then there's the Sinister War arc that comes. Yeah, it took me a while to get through that Chameleon Conspiracy bit, but then the Sinister War thing, bang up, man! I loved it. It was fantastic. It's all leading up to Nick Spencer's last issue.
Oh man, we're giving you a little taste of the comic book love that you would also hear over on Secret Friends. So
yeah, there you go. Go listen to Secret Friends.
There you go. Listen to Secret Friends. There'd be a lot more comic book talk than just here. But no, this first story actually hits on the fact that today, when we're recording, September 26th, obviously 2021. There, Rich, I dated us. Sorry, but it's relevant. Is the 20th anniversary to the dot of the launch of the Star Trek Enterprise series back in 2000. I believe it was a Monday night show because you know how the calendar obviously rotates through, but I seem to remember
Yeah.
it was like a Monday show, and I was very eager for it. I mean, I had been a watch it and record it Star Trek viewer since high school. When I didn't do it, my mother very graciously did it for me back at home when I was away at school. It's a running joke between Todd and I. But this was a show. But by this point, I was out in the real world. You know, I had a job and all this different stuff. But I was still super duper dedicated to watching this. And I remember earlier in the spring that year, we got, oh, here's going to be some of the characters. And I was super excited about it. So, you know, the show debuted. The first episode is called Broken Bow in reference
Mhm.
to one of the very earliest episodes scenes in the episode about a Klingon who crashes his escaped craft in a cornfield in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, and things kind of go nuts from there. So I loved the first episode, less the super over sexualized part of the decon chamber. Rich, I'm sure you remember what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
That was very, and it's funny because this blurb that we're looking at is an interview with Scott Bakula, who of course was the star of the show as Captain Archer, talking about how wrestling with the network was challenging because something like that decon chamber where you had scantily clad both women and then later on men seems very networky. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Particularly back
Yeah.
in that day, it's very gimmicky. It's very look at me,
Definitely.
and it's just not very Star Trek. You know, Star Trek doesn't overly sexualize, or at least past
Well.
TOS, past TOS. You know, I mean, it's not quite so. You know, I don't want to use an expression that would express what I'm thinking about, but I think you know what I mean. It's not quite that painting it in that fashion.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at Deanna Troy and Seven of Nine, but sure. Other than that, probably not.
You're right. Yes, exactly. But other than that, but yeah, there just seemed to be a lot on this show that's trying to appeal to that, which he
Yeah.
refers to a lot of corporate wrestling that he had to do,
Mm.
and then yeah. So the show, and again, I know someday, Rich, I'm sure you'll get around to it. Had kind of an uneven first season, had a
Yep.
pretty uneven second season, and then 9/11 hit at just prior to the beginning of the first season. And what this article goes on to talk about, this interview with Scott Bakula, is how that shaped and colored things that followed within the series. And again, season 1 and season 2, there are a lot of your just run of the mill, like it's lather, rinse, and repeat kind of Star Trek stories. But
Yeah.
when they get to the end of season 2, they bring in a very on the nose 9/11 comparison with an alien race known as the Zindi that sends a probe to Earth. It fires
Yeah.
a laser beam into the planet's surface, cuts this big swath of destruction, and many million people die. And then the Enterprise has to go on this hunting mission to
Mm.
find them, and the hunting mission takes all of season 3.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
And I found season 3 to be great. I liked it. They even snuck in a couple of cool little stories here and there. There was, they visited kind of a cowboy planet at one point, and there was like a reason. No, there was a reasonable explanation for what that meant.
Okay.
Um, and it had kind of a super cool conclusion that was, I think, the last 2 episodes of season 3 and the first 2 episodes of season 4, kind of all married together and into kind of a super movie.
Okay.
Which I dug, and then season 4 itself, which they took on a new showrunner, and they took on some new writers that really paid a little bit more homage to TOS and some other things related to Star Trek. Season 4 really started to cook, but it was kind of like too little, too late,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you'd had this dynasty of Star Trek that had been going on for almost 15 years, and people were just kind of sick of it
Sure.
overall, particularly because it was on a network. You didn't really have the benefit of the syndication where things can run in different time spots. And this was even back in a time when time spots mattered, because to the way that April and I watch TV, it doesn't matter at all.
Right.
It's
Right.
just it just you watch stuff when you want to watch stuff. So I enjoyed the show, but yeah, definitely what this article is talking about is that 9/11 obviously really painted the craft of what they did in season 3, and I find it to be very watchable. Again, I watched it from the jump. I also have kind of these Star Trek covered glasses that I see things generally in a pretty favorable light. But I can definitely tell you that I understand why the show got canceled, and the first 2 seasons were very much lather, rinse, and repeat. You don't have a story
Sure.
that you say to me, "Hey, Charlie, what's your favorite story in the first half of season 2?" And I
Right.
can't. I might be able to answer that. Like I might try,
Yeah.
but as far as kind of regular run of it's a show that a lot of Star Trek fans that I bump into just online, or certainly when we do Comic Cons and conventions for the fan club, that that we just don't bump into.
Yeah.
So where I mean, where do you sit with any of that? You've seen the first season.
I've seen the first season. I think the main reason why I didn't watch Enterprise when it first aired is because of 9/11. Um, we have a lot of family in New York. Like my
Hmm.
whole family comes from New York City, Manhattan
Right.
specifically, and that kind of changed the way I viewed things. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it changed the way I chose to be entertained, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember watching anything after 9/11 until probably December or January of the last half of 2011 or 2001 and
Hmm.
2002. And I think that's why I didn't pick up on this, because
Okay.
I'd watched Voyager, I'd watched TNG, I'd watched original. I hadn't watched DS9, which we had
Right.
talked about, but which is of course is changing. But I mean, that coupled with the look of the show, to me not jiving with where things would eventually go with TOS, kind of put me off of it. And now hearing what you're talking about with season 3, it sounds like kind of a ham-handed way to handle a
Ham
reaction to 9/11. Yeah, we'll go with the ham
ham-handed.
hands again.
There we go with the ham hands
Yeah,
again.
yeah, again with the ham hands. So, yeah, so I mean, I'm still gonna watch it. Obviously, I want to watch it. I want to kind of see how that was handled. I think that as a nation, the United States spent a lot of time mourning what happened and reacting to it with our art, right?
Hmm.
So this is, I mean, obviously no exception. But I think there comes a point where if you're doing a 9/11 allegory for an entire 26 episode season, I think people are going to get tired of it. You know, I
You
think it's
know.
going to be more of a, you want to have like a movie about it. You want to have like, that Adam Sandler Rain Over Me movie, right? Sure.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
2 hours. We can spend 2 hours talking about it, but then you need there to be some escapism as well.
Hmm.
And you need to take on other things. It's just that was the biggest thing at the time.
Right. Very
So
true. Very
it's
true.
still, I
So
mean, it still is very large in our national psyche. So,
right, and understandably, probably always will be. So I
mhm.
completely get it. So yeah, and I enjoyed the show, but again, it had its time. It was a product of its time, and then Star Trek took a long hibernation on the television screen, and then we circled back to what we've had since 2017, which is kind of a birth of Star Trek shows that kind of
Mhm.
embrace a new format and are kind of going in different directions, including what we have for our next story,
Yeah.
which we're just a few weeks away from seeing well, just under a month away, the October 28th debut. So that's
Yeah.
that is a month and 2 days. Since I already mentioned when we're recording, but of the of Star Trek Prodigy, which is going to be available on the Nickelodeon brand over on Paramount Plus,
Right.
and we did get some kind of fun character posters. So we're seeing the character of Dal. This is the USS Protostar crew, and again, I don't know if this got lost in between that we talked about. There's been a trailer out there now. We've got a better look at of the ship.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got character posters now of Dal, who's Brett Gray, Gwyn, who is Ella Purcell, Zero is Agnes Imrie, Jackum Pog is Jason Mantzoukas, one of my favorites. So I'm kind of say you've got Murph and D. Bradley Baker, who kind of stole the show in a lot of ways off that panel, just doing his voice work. My God, over on Star Trek Day, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy stuff. So, um, Rocktack is Riley Alec was. Oh my God, I can't say this name. She's the daughter of the guy who was a Taco Bell dog. Alec, help me out here, buddy.
Let me see if I can find the name in the thing here.
In the first period, Ella Quasari. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. I feel like it's on the tip of my
Al
tongue.
Alice Rocky?
Alice Rocky, thank you. Oh my
Alice
gosh.
Rocky?
And then naturally the holographic version of our own Catherine Janeway, Kate Mulgrew. So
My space baby mama.
you're so she's that as to what Aaron always had to say about Anson Mount.
Yeah, like
The Space
Catherine
Baby Daddy
Janeway, yeah, Catherine Janeway circa Voyager. Man, I loved her. There was
would
something
would
about a
would
woman in command, man.
would have made your sci-fi hall pass list if there was such a thing.
I would have
So
made her coffee every day.
no, Rich, I didn't know. That is some fascinating character insight into Rich Davenport. I appreciate you sharing. So,
Sure.
Rich, is this show something you're excited with to expose to your son? I know
Yeah,
you
I
met.
mean, he likes Lower Decks, so I'm sure that Prodigy will be something he'll be enjoying.
Right.
I'm sure
Oh,
I'll expose him to it. I'm desperate to get that kid into Star Trek mainline. I mean, he's
right.
10, he's going on 11. Now's
Right.
the time, man.
It'll
Now's the
happen.
time.
It'll
I
happen. You know,
Yeah,
if you think about yourself, because it was your godmother who kind of got you into Star Trek, if I'm
yeah,
remembering correctly. And
yep.
were you right around that same age, 10, 11, or was it older, younger?
I would have been I think the first time I ever watched Star Trek, I must have been 7 or 8 years old.
Okay, gotcha. So
So, I was a
not
little younger, but not by much, you
not
know?
dramatically so. And then
Yeah.
for me, as I'm sure I've mentioned, my parents were Star Trek viewers in the dorms in Central Michigan University back in the late 1960s when it was on.
Right.
They watched it together. Not that they were two giant nerds like us, but still it was something that that they enjoyed, and that carried forward to obviously when I was born in the early 1980s. So when I was 7, 8 years old, maybe a little younger, TOS reruns were on the one of the local broadcast stations, and then when we got around to 1986, which is when I was 10, is when Star Trek 4 came out. And that was the first film I saw kind of in the theater, or can really
Okay.
remember having a solid seeing it in the theater. And that made me a big fan. And then, the subsequent fall is when I was 11, and in junior high is when TNG came on. And then at that
Sure.
point, it was kind of all over for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we're talking in that age range of what you described between like 7 and 8 and like 10, 11 for me,
Yeah,
that kind of puts him smack in the middle. And then this again being a Nickelodeon program can skew even younger. So
yeah.
it's smart marketing, and I get the feeling you'll end up being successful.
I hope so. I hope
Getting
so.
him into the mix. So
I think what they might need to do at some point is make a young adults Star Trek show that's not animated. Make something like Miles likes to watch like live action young adult shows now.
okay,
So if they did something like that, I think it's over at that point. I think they've got him.
they've kind of boop
Yeah.
pushed him over the edge.
Yeah, exactly.
Understood.
He
Gotcha.
teeters, so
He
now I have a
did.
question about Prodigy. What
Sure.
I thought the ship was the Voyager. I thought it was like the Voyager F or something like that.
I mean, it's not, because it says
Right.
right here whatever it is. I'm very interested to see how they coordinate the setting, because time wise it's supposed to be maybe a couple of years after Lower Decks, which as we know almost immediately follows Nemesis, putting it at the year 2380, 2381, and this is supposed to be 2382 or 3 or 4.
Okay.
But this looks like a very advanced ship that has crashed on a planet in the Delta Quadrant still, and when it gets found, Catherine Janeway is a hologram on there. I have a theory that literally just popped into my head
Okay.
in watching Voyager, and see if you can remember this. Once Voyager through the Pathfinder array gets regular contact with Earth in season six
Yeah.
and season 7,
Yeah.
they're getting regular data packets from Starfleet, and one of the mess one of the bleh. No, you know what? Scrap that. Go even further back. You remember when actor Ray Wise guessed it as an alien that tried to dupe the crew and dump them into the Borg by faking his ship as being a
Yeah.
Starfleet ship?
Yep. Yep.
Well, he did that by taking this corrupted data stream and making it sound like they found a way for them to get home if they jump on the ship. Or when the data stream said, "Sorry, we can't find a way to get you home, but we have 3 deep space vessels on their way to you, and if you're successful, they could coordinate with you." I could be mixing the two together, but at some point, it was the same Admiral character, not Admiral Hanson, but Admiral such and such. You saw him in a few different episodes. Said, "We've
Yeah.
got a couple of ships that are going in your direction, and you should be able to connect with them in maybe 10 years."
Right.
So here's Charlie's theory. One of those ships crashes on some weird planet, sits there for 10 or so years, and then these aliens find it, and Janeway happens to be the hologram that's on board.
How does the Janeway hologram get on board?
Well, Starfleet put it there. I mean, they programmed it there before it left the Alpha Quadrant.
Oh.
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. I just literally it just kind of I thought of those two or three ships that are on their way to the Delta Quadrant, and
Yeah,
one of them gets lost or whatever, or they finally or maybe they don't get very far at all because Voyager gets home a couple seasons later or whatever.
right.
But one of them got lost and crashed on this planet and then gets found. So
Yep.
I just there could be a million different explanations.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would be, I would say, the thing I'm the most curious about.
Yeah, definitely. I wanna know. It doesn't even it's not the same class as Voyager either, is it?
No, it's a different. It's
Yeah,
obviously a Starfleet looking ship because it's got it's got the saucer section, it's got the two engine nacelles, and it's got the
yeah,
engineering hull that just very much looks like the vast majority of Starfleet ships. So
right,
yeah, it's totally Starfleet, but yeah, it's not Voyager. It could be. That would make a heck of a lot more sense, but
right.
kind of
I
here
mean,
we are.
it does have that Voyager Arrowhead saucer, right?
Right.
That's,
The kind
Enterprise
the
D
kind
or
of
Enterprise E one, right?
Yeah, yes, I think so. I would have to go back and study it, but I
Yeah.
mean, I'm excited about this, concept. I really do want to know how it got there.
And it
That'll
does
be
have an NX designation too.
which would make it an experimental vessel like the Excelsior was in Star Trek
Right.
3, or like the Defiant was the whole time that it was around. So
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Huh, okay.
All right. Well, things to be solved in 32 days. But in the time in between, final story is we have some images. And this is just a little snippet. We have some new images that showed up on Twitter within the last week or so that are some different video and different stuff from Star Trek Picard, and it's looking like you remember what we saw from the trailer that Q shows up and he says, you know what, I want to give you something fun to do, so I'm going to go up and screw up history back in the year. I read this that they set the current day segment of it in 2019 as opposed to 2021 so that COVID is not a part of it.
Ah, nice.
No, I'm serious. Isn't that? I mean, that's smart, right? I mean,
That is smart. Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
actually does make sense. But kind of scrolling through some of these images, it looks like they're going to be giving us back some very traditional 24th century kind of style, the old the LCRS or the LCARS colors that you would see on all the panels. They
Yeah.
even look brighter and a little bit more vibrant. But as you scroll through this, you're getting a lot of clicks and homages. Like they're in a bar and there's a sign that says Arcanus Lager, which is a Klingon planet that they fought about in DS9. The old boatswain's whistle, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, just a lot of stuff that is very TNG ish. And then you have a weird alien trying to eat his bagged lunch at the bottom of this last one. So
Good old
uh,
craft services. The that thing here, that neon sign, they're saying that's from the bar in Star Trek 3 where McCoy approaches that one backwards talking alien.
Right, exactly. Well, which would make sense because I think while the episode did get, or while the planet got a mention in DS9, I believe it got a mention obviously back in TOS because otherwise how would it have shown up? Or
That's true.
maybe it's just this much of an Easter egg that this was the first and only appearance of it before DS9 was this weird sign in Star Trek 3. So that's a question for Memory Alpha because now I'm
Yeah,
curious.
yeah.
Now I do want to know. So yeah, and we are seeing Star Trek Picard in February, I believe was the
Too
date they
long,
gave.
too long. That's too long.
We're seeing it in a period of too long.
Yeah,
But the thing is, the time will absolutely fly by. I promise you that much.
that's true. We do have like the holidays and
I know
and then it'll be of course Picard will keep us nice and warm during the Great Beast February. So
No, I was born in February. That's my birth month, and people always crap on it. But you know what? I don't really blame them. It's okay.
my son was
So
born on February 14th, so
oh, that
I
my
get
my
it.
my son, my late son, that was also his birthday.
Oh,
And Miranda's little boy also has that birthday. So
oh, cool.
that's a killer birthday day. So I will always honor Valentine's Day as a birthday. I think that's awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
I love it. So well, cool. Well, let's segue into talking about Star Trek Lower Decks. And I will admit we have not had a lot of great things to say about this show in its sophomore season. And we've been in agreement that it's become pretty. I hate to use the expression because it's too corny. It's become kind of sophomoric and
Yeah.
image and immature in its season 2. But you know what? Let's jump into this season. You know what? I've been doing way too much talking. So, Rich, do you wanna drive the boat for a little while and talk about this episode?
Sure, sure. Yeah. So this episode has Boimler and
Mariner.
Mariner. They're stuck on a planet with a megalomaniacal robot or a computer.
Hmm.
Um, Ag- Agamus, is it? Yeah,
Yes, I believe so.
yeah. Played by Jeffrey Combs.
Oh, if I can interject, I
Yeah,
am, and I don't know if I was talking to you about this or I was talking to somebody else, but I said I am so embarrassed that watching this at like 5:20 in the morning because April night, we get up early because the cats get us up, the dog has to go out, and we're like, we're
sure.
up, we're gonna watch our morning show. I had a feeling he was coming on. I knew he was coming on. Watched this whole episode, and all I was thinking was, why is that voice so familiar? I'm so embarrassed. But you know what? I'm also a painfully honest person. I'm coming out. I'm laying my sins out on the table. I can't believe I didn't know it was him. But anyway, please go on.
That's okay. No, no. It took me a little while to figure out who it was too, and I actually had to go and research it a little bit because it was bugging me too. I couldn't
Oh,
place it.
good. Well, yeah, misery loves company. Thanks a lot.
Misery Loves Company. Yeah, absolutely. So they are trying to figure out a way to get off the planet because their communications have been destroyed. They don't have any water. Meanwhile, the evil computer is trying to get them to plug him into the mainframe on the shuttlecraft that they were on. Was it a shuttlecraft that they were on?
They were in a regular shuttlecraft. I mean, it looked
Yeah.
marginally different, but yeah, it
Right.
looked like it looked like TNG ish, so it kind
Okay.
of fit the bill. Yeah.
Okay. So he's trying to get them to plug them into that or plug him into that. And eventually Boimler has to trick Mariner into letting him plug the evil computer into only the homing beacon,
Hmm.
only the communications. And while this is all happening, the chief engineer, is that the chief
Yeah,
engineer? Okay.
he is. Yeah, and his name is. Oh my God, I'm not going to remember his name.
It doesn't
It's
really matter. Come on.
right. Okay, Billups. His
Let's
name
be
is
honest.
Billups.
Okay,
His name is
Billups. Okay.
Billups.
All right. So it turns out he actually is um, a member of a species that, or they're human, right? Are they human? They're just a bunch of humans that like to cosplay.
Humanoid, yeah. It's. I mean,
Humanoid.
they're
Okay.
and for all we let's just it could just be a Federation colony, and that yeah,
Yeah.
they're all cosplayer Ren Fair types, and so they have
Yeah.
all
The RenFest ship, the ship of RenFest,
the
basically,
Ship of
right?
Rent.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could be a great episode name.
There you go.
I'm gonna make a note of it. Keep talking, please.
Okay. So his mother, the queen of these people, is trying to get him to assume his rightful place as the next king, the next ruler. But to do this, he has to have sex. And of course, he's not doing that. He has been a virgin for his whole life and he plans to be a virgin for the rest of his life. They trick him. He almost does the deed, but the ensign with the bionic eye that I can never remember the name of,
Rutherford.
Rutherford, that's it,
It's so
Rutherford.
bad. We should be doing better, Rich. My
I
God.
know, I know.
Boom. I know it's terrible. It's
Wow.
okay. It's okay.
We suck.
We
So
do suck.
so Rutherford stops him pre-coitus, and and then everything goes back to normal. I guess that's basically it, and it's of course filled with jokes and which to me they just don't land, but
It's,
maybe for some people it'll work. It's
it,
it's just not working for me, man. It's just not
it,
working.
I mean, it's entirely possible it does land for some. This was an improvement for me,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
there have been some bad, just abominations of episodes in this
yeah,
season that I'll never get past the Mugado thing. I'm sorry
yeah.
that's a stain that can't really be erased, in a way. The Mugado, that just
Look
and for
what
the
you've done to Roddenberry.
yeah, exactly. Show me where Lower Decks hurt you. And for the fact that both you and Aaron were trying to watch with your kids,
Yeah,
and it's just and again, I'm not coming from that perspective, but
right.
for you guys, I feel what you're feeling, and
Yeah,
it's tainted it for me too. And the bleeped out language, it just seems very inappropriate because Starfleet people just don't Starfleet people just especially of this era, so
yeah,
let's say that the occasional F-bomb gets dropped on Discovery because maybe people were a little more vulgar back then. I don't
right.
know. And then somewhere between Discovery and TOS, people decided to clean up their language. Who knows?
And then they decided to regress for Picard because there's a lot of F bombs in
Right.
Picard as well.
Well, but I was going to say the F bombs that I heard in Picard came from older people. So maybe old people at
Oh.
some point just stopped caring about decorum. And I don't know. Or it's just really that one admiral. I don't know if anybody else was dropping F bombs besides that one admiral in Picard. I don't
Oh
know.
no, what's her name? The his first officer,
Oh,
former first
Raffi?
officer, Raffi, yeah, she drops an F-bomb at one point
Oh,
too.
okay. All right. I believe you. If I'm forgetting, I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
But regardless, yeah,
But anyway.
I don't know why that bothers me so much because it just seems unnecessary. And then, I've got you in my head saying, it's Star Trek Family Guy, and you're not wrong.
Yeah.
But at least it was a tilt in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, but when I share, because I always share from Trek Movie, which is kind of my preferred news source for Star Trek stuff. When
Mhm.
I share their review, as you scroll all the way down to the bottom, their last section is laugh lines, like saying things that were supposed to make you laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I've been, Boimler says you've been boimed. Why
You've
am I
been
laughing?
blamed.
What you see, you chuckled at that, but you did it quasi ironically, and I respect that
Yeah.
because it's just not really. Yeah, it's just their list of laugh lines just didn't really blow me away. So, uh,
See,
it, go ahead, please.
so the thing that got me that made me kind of chuckle like under my breath again, not
Chuckle.
like, yeah, just the tiniest bit, like the last episode where the janitor was like, "Oh, this is how I die." I thought to
Right.
myself, "Okay, that's funny, right?" This episode, when they put away the evil computer, he's in a wall of evil megalomaniacal computers, and it's labeled as such. And then they're
Right.
all talking about how they're the evilest and how they're going to win. And I was like, okay, that's kind of amusing,
Oh, they
right?
did it. They found
Yeah,
something. I'm
yeah.
glad.
So 2 episodes in a row now, something that's kind of amusing hit with me. This one wasn't as bad, I think, as others, but I mean, and I want to make it clear, I'm not like anti-animation. I love
Oh,
The
of course not.
Simpsons.
Oh,
I
I
mean, I
know
love The
that.
Simpsons. I like the first few episodes or first few seasons of Family Guy before it got
Same.
rote and boring.
Same.
I love Rick and Morty. I love South Park. This, I don't think. I think the problem is where Family Guy and Star Trek cross for me isn't. It does. I don't think. I don't think that peanut butter needs to be in my chocolate. You know what I mean?
That's an expression I use a lot myself, so I
Yeah.
absolutely know what you mean.
Yeah. So
That being said, and I don't want to open a whole nother can of worms, but with Seth MacFarlane being a starring character, where do you sit with the Orville, which is also coming back this week?
I watched the first 3 episodes of the Orville first season,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
couldn't watch anymore. I couldn't watch anymore.
yeah. Just total click. Yeah.
Seth MacFarlane has turned me off so much with
Mhm.
his snarky BS. I mean, I saw that
Yeah.
A Million Ways to Die in the West. It's the same.
Oh,
He plays the same character
I
in
know.
literally everything. It's the same character, and
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 that
and I can't deal with that.
And I think you and I had a similar conversation about Free Guy because of your disdain of Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah,
He's just
plays
he's
the
just kind
same character.
right, right. And that is I won't say it's an issue for you, but
It
that
is.
is that is one of the four horsemen of your, which is funny. I read a divorce book when I got divorced many years ago, talking about the four horsemen of your marriage, like things that are immutable. They're like, it's like a foundation
Yeah.
of things that really can't be changed. And
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I would say one of the four horsemen of how you imbue entertainment is having an actor that can't act.
Right.
They just do one thing.
They're not an actor then. That's not an
Right.
actor.
Exactly. So it's a
That's
Will
a shtick.
Smith. It's
Yeah.
a Will Smith. It's a
Well, now
you
Will
know
Smith can act. Will Smith has range. Will Smith has done stuff like 6 Degrees of Separation. He's done
and
stuff like 7
the yeah
Pounds.
the in the happiness movie. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Will Smith's a bad example, but what a great example is Adam Sandler. No, wait, he's
Adam Sandler is kinda half and half. Yeah.
you're right
But
because he has broken out. But there was one
yeah.
that was on the tip of my tongue. Vin Diesel or anybody
Oh
in those
god,
Fast and
yeah.
Furious movies. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you just can't take somebody who's like, now I'm Vin Diesel and I'm in the Chronicles of Riddick. Now I'm Vin Diesel and I'm in Fast and Furious 1 through 8 million or however many of those are going to end up making.
Yeah. Which is
So
ironic. That's ironic for me because when it comes to like 80s action movies, like I like my Schwarzenegger, I like my
yeah, oh
Stallone,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I like my Bruce Willis.
And we don't
But
blink. We don't blink.
yeah, but they all play the same character. But then again, that is a time, and I call it before I was enlightened, right? Before I studied film,
In the
like
before
in
time.
college, right? In the before time, right? Before I studied film and before I became an actor myself, that's not acting. That's just a shtick, right? Uh,
Right.
which fine, that's what you want to do. That's great, but don't call them a great actor. I hear people call Ryan Reynolds a great actor all the time. He's not a great
Yeah.
actor. He's got the
I
same stick that he's been playing since Van Wilder,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. I'm
So
not even going to take it to that level because that would be
yeah.
foolish. He's not a great actor. He's
No,
just you're right. He's a guy doing some stuff.
right. Now I've seen him in one movie where he actually acted. Where he actually did something other than his Van Wilder shtick, and it's called Buried. Have you ever seen that movie?
I know of it, but I have not seen
It
it.
is basically a one man show, and he brings it in that.
Good.
He
So
really brings it.
so in the final analysis, he's capable, but he's lazy.
He's capable, but maybe only in certain situations. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe he doesn't have people. He doesn't have a director. I mean, he surrounds himself with people who are like, yeah, do the Van Wilder shtick, right? Instead of
Right.
surrounding himself with people that challenge him and make him move forward. Where
Like
Adam
George
Sandler, like
like George Lucas
like
in the
George
prequels.
Lucas, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Oh my
George
goodness.
Lucas untethered is someone that is not a good filmmaker. George Lucas with people that say, "No, George, look, you can't do it like this. Let me give you some advice," and people that he'll listen to, people that he'll trust.
Right.
George Lucas can be a great filmmaker, but
Right, exactly
other than that,
correct.
I mean, look
My
at what he did
goodness.
with THX 1138 when he was under the tutelage of Francis Ford Coppola.
Right, exactly. So
So
he's got the talent, but he
mhm.
needs focus. So
Right,
wow,
right.
we have we've really talked a lot about this. This is crazy.
We have derailed, my friend,
And
derailed.
I would almost you know what I would say we haven't. I'd say we've really gone in a great direction,
Yeah, yeah,
but we've not even gotten to the serious meat of the show, which is segment 3.
yep,
Which again I'm going to have to let you drive because this was your pick and it's a great one.
yep,
And I think it's even greater coming from the perspective that you are not someone who is steeped in the show. You've seen a handful of segments,
yep,
largely because of our association, your association with the fan club.
yep.
So I'm gonna let you. So I think that that's even more significant as to me, who I've seen this. I saw this episode when it aired, and I've watched it, a dozen times in the years in between. So I'm gonna let
Sure.
you 100% drive this deal. So please take it away.
Perfect. Okay, so the first of all, the way that I picked this was I went and I looked at like what are the best episodes of DS9, and this one
Mhm.
came up on almost every list that I read. Almost every list. This episode is called Far Beyond the Stars, and basically here's the is this from Memory Alpha? Is that who
Yeah,
this
I
came
did.
from?
I gave you a link,
Okay.
and then the top paragraph is the summary from Memory
Perfect.
Alpha.
Okay. So, experiencing a vision from the prophets, Cisco sees himself as Benny Russell, a science fiction writer in the 1950s who struggles with civil rights and inequality when he writes the story of Captain Benjamin Sisko, a black commander of a futuristic space station. So, one of the reasons that I picked this is because a lot of this hasn't changed, right? The the idea that institutional racism is still out there, right?
Mm,
And ironically enough, right, this episode was written by white writers,
right.
which again, I think we talked about this on another episode, and I can't remember which one it was, where they stopped just short of really driving home the message, really driving home the ideals that they're trying to, prop up, but like push to the forefront with this episode, which is, diversity, which is acceptance, which is, well, all those things.
Right.
I think it belies the inadequacies of the series itself by making an episode like this with white writers. If you want this story to be told, get black writers in there. Let these writers tell the story from their perspective. Now, I don't know how much Avery Brooks had to do with the storyline, but he did direct it. So there
Right.
is some
Correct.
of that, right? So there is some of his personal experience in this, I'm
Hmm.
sure, right? But we see things like the white cop's attitude towards people who
Right.
look different, right?
Right.
Well,
Correct.
that to me speaks to what we're seeing even today. Now, I pulled up a story here on Washington Post. Oh,
Hmm.
I closed the window.
Right. Right.
There's a town in Virginia right now where they have Afghan refugees being settled, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you have a group of people in this town who are already spreading rumors, spreading lies about these refugees, and making them to be the bad guy right off the bat. just straight away. They don't even know these people, right? This is kind of what's happening with these white officers. They assume that because Benny is a black man, that he is up to no good. They
Mm-hmm.
don't believe that he could be writing for whatever, right?
Right. Exactly.
Writing for that magazine. He, you see that too in like there's this marginal acceptance, this barely barely surface acceptance of black people in the 1950s and even today, right?
Right.
Because now we've got, you look at the baseball player. I can't remember his name. Michael Dorn's character.
Oh
He,
yeah.
yeah,
That was gonna be my first example too, and I
yeah.
was struggling with that.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. What do you got? What do you got?
No, I mean, he said, even just trying to remember the name of the character, but it was the same thing. Local celebrity in Harlem, and he says, "Oh, you got enough money? Why don't you move down there?" He says, "Are you?" He says, shoot or shit." I think he wanted to say shit. He says they can barely stand sitting on the bench next to me, much less me living with them. Up here,
Right,
I'm a superstar. Down there, I'm just a colored boy playing softball or playing
right,
baseball or whatever it is that he says.
right,
Because you're right, God, almost 100 years after the slaves were freed at the end of Civil War. This is the Civil War. This is absolutely where we were. And then you want to look at the fact that this is set almost 70 years ago, and
hmm
how far have we come? And not damn near far enough. There's
Well, I
no
mean,
doubt about it.
think about it this way. Like Benny at one point, at the end, he's become angered and he is speaking up. And they're
Hmm.
telling him this is not the right way. This isn't good. You don't do it this way, right? This is the same thing that, white people were telling black people about kneeling during the national anthem. You can
Right.
protest, but don't protest this way. You can protest,
Right.
but don't go out in the streets. You can protest, but don't surround the courthouse. Look, you've been telling people what to do for so long. Eventually this is going to boil over, right?
Right.
And Benny says it best. He says something that, like, he says that he's been quiet for so long and he's never done a damn thing for him.
Right.
And he's right. So I mean, between that and Michael Dorn's baseball player character, I wish I could remember his name. I can't remember his name. I'd look it up, but it's going to take a
No,
while.
no, you talk and I'll look it up just so we're
Okay.
both satisfied. How does that sound?
Yeah, sure, that works. He represents black athletes today, even.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
Because if you look at it, like LeBron James, right? He is a polarizing figure, right? Either you love him or you hate him. Either you think he's the greatest or you think that he's, second fiddle to Michael Jordan, right? But he's accepted as a basketball player. But when it comes to anything else, people scorn him. His political beliefs, people scorn him. When he speaks up for something, people scorn him. White people, I might add, not a lot of people that aren't white that are doing that. I think what's happening here is I think white people are starting to feel, at least at least conservative white people are starting to feel the tenuous grip at best coming apart a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where there is going to be equality at some point, I hope, but they're holding on so long. And I think Aaron said it best a while ago that, it's not going to stop until that generation is dead and gone.
Sadly so. By the way, just as a quick interjection,
Yeah.
character known as Willie Hawkins.
Willie Hawkins. Yeah.
And the quote that I kind of mangled was just another colored man that can hit a curveball.
There it is. Yeah. Can
Yeah.
hit a curveball. Now, did you notice? Okay. So now, again, I haven't seen a lot of DS9. I'm just going to fanboy here for a second.
Go for it.
Brock
Yep.
Peters was in this. Darth Vader himself. Brock Peters.
Darth Vader himself. When was he Darth Vader? Help me.
Nah, come on. You got to know. You don't know?
Empire Strikes Back radio play?
Yes. Actually, all three of the radio plays. Yep.
Okay, good. I, honest to God, listened to one of those on the old radio set in the house I grew up in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. I remember
Beautiful.
turning that on. No, Brock Peters is Joseph Sisko, Ben
Right.
Sisko's dad, who we see in a number of episodes.
Also, Admiral Cartwright from,
and
the
also
later-
Admiral
yeah.
Cartwright. So yeah, a lot of ups and downs. The late Brock Peters, great actor, and,
Yeah.
and loved his contributions to Star Trek. But yeah, this had a great cavalcade of bringing in all of the regular characters in various roles, some of which are very much caricatures. Like, Armin Shimmerman's character was very much a Jewish caricature of the time.
Right.
Rene Auberjonois' character was very much a caricature of that type of individual at that
Yeah.
time in history, though I can't really pin it down if that was a racial or ethnic or just the fact that he was a cranky old white guy. I'm not sure.
He was the cranky old white guy who just didn't wanna stand up for anything.
Right, exactly. He yeah,
He didn't feel very good about what he did, but
right.
his response to it was to get angry. His
Right.
response was to, just piss all over Benny, basically.
Right. Well, and he said it best. He says, take your story or, blah, 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 this, and that, or put it in a drawer for 50 years or
Right.
however long it takes for the human race to become colorblind. So basically, you know what, this is not my fault. I can't do anything about it. It's just the way it is, which I believe is an exact line that he says.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. I'm not the one to take a stand. I don't care.
Mhm.
I'm an old guy. I'm in the twilight of my career. This is a
Right.
rinky dinky little magazine. This is not worth me losing my job or upending anything over. It's of me, upsetting the apple cart.
Yeah.
It's not me. It's not.
And
It was a hashtag. It's not me.
right, exactly. And Armin Shimmerman's character calls him out and calls him a coward, which is true. You
Absolutely.
if you don't pick a side, you're siding with the oppressors, guys. I hate to break it to you. If you don't pick a side, you are siding with the oppressors.
Right. Exactly.
That's just the truth.
Well, and you said it early on in our episode when you were just talking about you and Jen and COVID. You guys do everything you can to be part of the
Mhm.
solution, not the problem. And
Yep.
it's the exact same thing.
Yeah. The one other thing that really hit me hard in this was Jimmy's death and the resulting beating of Benny.
Right. Well, Benny did nothing, but yeah, he popped his cap, and then the cops were like, well, let's just beat the crap out of him because now we
Mhm.
have an excuse because it's what we've always wanted to do since we bumped into this guy the other day.
Well,
You know what I mean?
they murdered two black men for no reason.
Right.
And
Right.
they'll walk, of course, in within the confines of, their
Their
characters,
universe. Yes,
universe or
exactly.
whatever. They'll walk because
Right.
number one, it's 1950s. Although it wouldn't matter if it was 1950s or 2018, right? They'd still walk. They murdered two black guys for nothing. He had a weapon. He had a crowbar. He was trying to break into a
Uh,
car,
right.
and that
Exactly.
does not merit a death sentence, right?
Right.
And then,
Exactly.
well, they didn't murder two. They murdered one and beat up the other, right? And then they beat the crap out of Benny for trying to intervene, trying to point out that that what they were doing was wrong. This is the way with any kind of fascist state, or marginally fascist state, if you wanna make the argument. They will beat down whoever they need to beat down to maintain control. Look at the protesters that were in DC when Trump wanted to take his photo op, right? With his
Right.
Bible, right?
Right.
They tear gassed all those people.
Just to get him out of the way so he can hold an upside down Bible
That's
in
right.
front of a church. Yep.
That's right. I mean, so it's still going on. It's still happening.
Oh yeah.
All of this talk, hundreds of years of oppression, 100 so on years of quote unquote freedom, because it's not freedom, right?
Right.
They,
Yeah.
they,
Freedom isn't freedom if it's not free.
yeah, basically, yeah. So yeah, I mean, this was an episode that angered me, that challenged me. It's an episode that made me hopeful in a little way, because at one point, Benny says, "You can't destroy an idea. You can kill me, but you can't kill the movement." Basically, is what he's
Right.
saying.
Can
And
silence me, but you cannot silence Benjamin Sisko.
that's right. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
So
I think the only drawback is to have this written by white people. You needed to have. And when was this released? What was this?
1997. Oh my god,
'97,
I usually know these by rote. Aired week of February 1998.
'98. Okay.
That was the month I turned 22.
Oh,
So I was in
that's
college
Black
when I saw
History
this guy.
Month too. That's Black History Month.
Wow.
I wonder
Which
if they planned
again,
that.
which again back in the 90s, you certainly didn't hear much about that the way that
Mm-mm.
you do today.
No.
In this day and age, February is rightfully celebrated heartily for that exact same thing.
Mhm.
But back in the 90s, that's not something I remember
No,
hearing much
now
about.
we have more exposure to like Juneteenth and stuff like that.
Right.
Kwanzaa. I
I
mean,
mean, Juneteenth for my, dumb white butt. I didn't know anything about it until I heard about it in an episode of Blackish, which is a show that my wife and I watch every week that it's on. I had
sure.
no idea, and then I had to go back and research it and get educated. And it's very important stuff that, again, not taught in history books, and
Yeah.
it's for all the reasons that you just talked about.
Yeah. I mean, for every step ahead that black folks get, they will find other ways to keep them down. I mean,
Right.
look at the changes to voting laws that are happening in
Yeah.
the southern states.
Right.
It's going to keep happening until we, as a people, as a human race, do something about it.
Well, and again, people dying off is what helps things improve marginally generation, so that
But
that next generation doesn't teach, or you get a different generation of people who decide to think for themselves.
mhm,
And then, but it is such a painfully long process. Again, we're going from 1865, when slavery is abolished, to the 1950s, where this story is set, which is
mhm,
still 5 to 10 years before the civil rights movement, to today, when we've had, riots in the Capitol, and we've had the slaying of I'm gonna Trayvon Martin, right? There in Minneapolis. That was his name, correct? That
George
happened
Floyd
there. George Floyd, who was Trayvon Martin, was the kid who got shot a few years earlier
in
by a
Florida.
cop in Florida for just wearing a hoodie. I
Mhm,
apologize for screwing that up.
yep,
But yeah, we're still seeing that kind of thing, and justice being served in a lot of ways. I won't say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't bring people back from the dead
mhm,
that had no business dying or essentially being murdered.
yeah.
So
Yeah, George Floyd was murdered over an assumed intentional passing of a counterfeit note. That's why he was
murdered,
murdered. Yep,
murdered
yep,
for a non-violent perceived crime.
yep,
It's
exactly.
it's absolutely horrible.
Mhm,
So,
yeah,
all we can do is, and I think Rich, from the jump in this episode, you put a light on it, is be a part of the solution, not the problem. Just
yeah. I mean,
just try to not be a POS every day, and treat people well,
yeah,
and try to, if you have children, try to educate them, but just be a good human being.
mhm,
And do what you can to get involved if you have an opportunity to be involved.
absolutely. I mean, this requires us to be helpful and not hindering.
Yeah.
If Black people are ever going to get anywhere, they need people like you and me to use our privilege
Hmm.
to help facilitate that
Right.
one way or the other.
Exactly
So
correct. Oh, I totally
the
agree.
this is a very close topic for me. So
I hear you. No, I know,
yeah,
and you know what, Rich, you spoke about it beautifully. I'm really glad you picked this, and I think we had an amazing discussion about it. I think this has been one of the best episodes we've done. So thank you very much,
yeah.
man.
Thanks for letting me pick that.
Thank you very much for doing it. So with that, we do have to bring this to a close. So Rich, do what you do and take us the heck out of here.
All right. For more information about Starfleet International, please visit the USS Grand Petoskey or Region 13 on Facebook.
And with that, I'm going to tell you, as always, friends, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trekking.
And be a part of the solution, not part of the problem, guys. Code 47 is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for our great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, or the podcast platform of your choice. If you would like to be part of the conversation, visit our new Discord server, or join us on Facebook, or follow us at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends on YouTube, and don't forget to visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.